I am so pissed off right now. I have been sitting here about an hour now, trying to start recording the next episode of the Relegation League, and I just can't. I can't. Not with everything going on in the world right now. There are so many people with such big platforms who have said things so eloquently. The speech that Killer Mike made was just amazing. Amazing. I don't have their platform, but I have one. A very small one, but I have one. I'm going to use it. There has been a problem in this country for as long as I've lived. I am 34 years old, and honestly, I've only known racism probably since I was 7 or 8. Because racism is taught. You do not just do it in your head. It is taught from family members. I had a kid who lived down the street from me. He was black. I was 5 or 6 years old at the time. I knew he was black. I knew the color of his skin was different than mine. Because despite what some people might say, you're not blind to color. That's a stupid thing to say that people use to cover up. I knew he was black. That just meant he looked different to me. It didn't mean anything else. There were no stereotypes, no nothing, because I was a little kid and I didn't know any better. It wasn't until I started growing up and people started telling me what the stereotypes were, pointing it out, using the one example they could find and paint the entire culture, race, whatever it may be, with a broad brush. I live in Springfield, Massachusetts. I don't know the exact amount, but I know for ever since I've been in high school at least, if not longer, a majority of the city is Hispanic. I live in a city where the whites are the minority. All right? Guess what, guys? There's still plenty of white privilege around here. The white privilege is the fact that all the white people complain, saying that we're the minority, why aren't we being helped out? Because you don't need the fucking help, you moron. If you don't understand what white privilege is, if you think it doesn't exist, if you think it's just a fucking myth. Alright. Now, I have known for a while about white privilege, but I've only kind of understood it. My awakening was when my daughter was born. My fiancé is Dominican, making my daughter half Dominican and half white. Half American, whatever you may want to call it. And it wasn't until she got a little bit older, probably about, 2 or 3 when she was getting out of the stroller, sort of wandering around, and we'd go to the mall. And it'd be the 3 of us going there, and all of a sudden, we're catching dirty looks. Old white ladies. I mean, trust me, from both sides, but especially the old white ladies just staring at us. Like we're bringing in the spawn of Satan. Now, why? Why? Because I made a mixed race baby? Is that the biracial baby? Is that the worst thing in the face of the world? According to these people, it is. And again, I'm in Massachusetts. We're a blue state. Allegedly, this shit doesn't happen here. Yeah. Being a blue state obviously means that racism doesn't exist, right? That's why when you think of racist cops, what's the first one that comes to mind? LAPD. Los Angeles, California. And I am just so disgusted. And it's been so disheartening. And honestly, I just wanted it to be muted. I wanted it to stop. I didn't want to have to hear about it anymore. I didn't want to see it anymore. I was sick of everything getting shared. But that's the problem, right? Is we're silencing black voices. We're silencing minority voices. Why? Because it hurts our feelings? Now with me, it's a matter of, I get it. Right? Like, I see it. There's racism everywhere. And no one's doing a goddamn thing about it. Or at least the people who can do something about it. So I have to sit here and watch yet another black man die. And now people are finally fed up. Everyone's been stuck in quarantine. There's a lot of discomfort and rage, and a lot of people are scared. Some people think it's a hoax, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, man, we were ready, right? We were ready. Protests everywhere. And I've seen all sorts of sides. I saw in Denver a bunch of people protesting, laid down, hands behind their back, chanting, "I can't breathe," for 9 minutes. The amount of time that fucking pig had his knee buried in the back of the skull of that man. George Floyd screaming, "I can't breathe," and now he's dead. And now they're going to try and say that that's not what killed him? Get the fuck out of here. I have seen videos pop up of police in Flint, Michigan, in New Jersey. They're walking with the protesters. They're not being violent towards them. It's a nonviolent protest from them. And they're just walking with them. And that's beautiful to see. Because even the cops are fed up with this. Some of them. Right? Some of them. I've also seen a little girl in Seattle get maced by a police officer. We've all probably seen the video at this point of the NYPD trying to fucking run over people. Right? Like, you're trying to say that the problem is with the protesters and not the cops, and they're out here doing this. I saw that one dipshit try and fire a bow and arrow into a crowd. And you want white privilege? He gets his ass stomped out, his car flipped and set on fire, and that's all well and good. And you know what happened after that? He's getting interviewed by the media, not hauled out in chains. He wasn't arrested. You know? Because he's white. Because the cops wanted nothing to do with it. You really think the protesters would have stopped the cops from arresting him? You really think that? No. Those are police who were cowards. And that's what it comes down to. It's cowardice. There are good cops out there. But there's some bad ones too. And there's a lot of cops who ain't doing shit about the bad ones. And a lot of it is systemic. A lot of it is the higher-ups. Cops are reporting the bad cops and getting fired for it. That's a thing that is happening. It is corruption to the highest levels of the police force. About 6 or 7 years ago, I was coming back, picking up my friend, and just around the corner from my house, state troopers are everywhere. This is about when we were building the casino in Springfield, and they had a lot of state troopers floating around, and they were trying to establish more of a police presence. They were profiling. Now, I didn't realize this at the time. This is still when I was in my dumb little bubble of white privilege. Now, I got pulled over in my Dodge Durango. I had bought it. It was one of those auction, repossession auctions or whatever. So it's from Texas. Heavily tinted windows. Windows that are probably illegal in the state of Massachusetts. Because everything's illegal around here. But heavier tints that probably fly in some places a lot hotter than here. So heavily tinted windows. My inspection sticker had expired 2 or 3 months before. And my friend was sitting in the passenger seat with no seatbelt. Cop pulls me over because all he sees is an SUV with tinted windows, thinking, this guy must be selling drugs. Roll down the window, I'm white. All of a sudden, you could see the shift in his face. Can you roll down the back window so I can just take a quick look, just to make sure there's nothing there? Okay. Because I knew, I knew that I was about to get a ticket or something like that. I didn't want anything worse. And I had seen at this point a couple of the videos popping up where they're getting the canines out and whatever, and me being the dumbass white boy. Okay, officer. Roll down the windows. Yep, nothing to it. Be on your way. No ticket. No written warning. Nothing. 3 infractions right there. None of which would land me in jail, but enough to get me some sort of ticket. Pretty heavy fine. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because I'm white. And that's white privilege. And we have a responsibility. If all men are created equal, if that is what this country is founded upon, we have a responsibility to every race, nationality, religion, sexual orientation, whatever it may be. It is our responsibility to take care of them, to use our platform, whatever it is. Now, I am very vocal on Twitter, and I've been trying not to bring it over here. This isn't a politics issue, but everyone wants to call it politics, so I've tried to leave it out. This is basic human rights. Men and women are being killed simply for being black. And you don't see the problem here? So I'm going to use my platform. And part of that is because it's my responsibility as a white man. Part of that, and trust me, this is not an obligation, it is a responsibility. There's a difference. I don't feel obligated. I don't feel like someone needs to tell me to do it. There's something going wrong in this country. Something has been wrong for a long time, and I understand racism exists everywhere. I've heard stories of different nationalities. One example I can think of, anyone who watches Queer Eye, the new reboot, Tan France was on Jonathan Van Ness's podcast telling the story about how he had to sprint home because he wasn't white, living in Britain. It's everywhere. And it shouldn't be. That is taught. We have an entire generation right now who think that if you're Muslim, you're evil. Because I'm older than a lot of you guys. I didn't know what a Muslim was until 9/11. I didn't hear anything. Then they're painted as terrorists. When I was younger, a terrorist was a white guy who drove a van up to the Oklahoma City State Building and blew it up. Timothy McVeigh was a terrorist. Scrawny-looking white dude blew up a building. All of a sudden, 5-6 years later, however long it may have been, you can't be a terrorist if you're white. You're just a troubled youth. All of this shit is... it's just insane. It's ridiculous. So, I'm going to end my rambling here, guys. Alright, I've got comments disabled down there for a reason. I don't want to hear any of the fucking negativity that may come back at me. If you don't like what I had to say here and you're a subscriber and you feel the need to unsubscribe, then please do. I don't want you here. If you don't see a problem with an innocent black man getting murdered by a corrupt police officer, if you think that's fine, get the fuck out now. I don't want you here. I'm not doing this for views. I'm not doing it for any other reason than because this is my platform and I'm going to use it. I want a better world for my daughter. I want a better world for all of us. And in order for that to happen, we have to make changes. Even if you're not actually a racist, even if you know that there is a problem, we got to do something about it. I don't like the riots and looting and all that other shit, but you know what? Colin Kaepernick took a fucking knee and they made it about the flag. They were making a peaceful protest and no one wanted to listen. Now all of a sudden they're getting violent. You didn't want to fucking listen before. When I stub my toe, do I want to fucking scream? No, but I have no other choice at that moment. Some sort of reaction just comes out of you. And you scream. And these people are screaming. They're just doing it on a much larger scale. So, anyone still staying around for this one? Thank you for listening to me. We'll get back to normal videos tomorrow. I'm Shane. I'm pissed.